Let's get peppy. Welcome to PEP 136. I feel like we were here just 2 days ago, Dave. Or Planet Extra Podcast. It's an offshoot of Planet America on the ABC Australia, which you can see on Friday. That's today at 8 p.m. on ABC News Channel, or Wednesday, that's 2 days ago, at 9:30 p.m. on ABC TV, and on iView on Facebook at ABC Planet America, and on YouTube at the ABC In-Depth channel. On PEP, we cover all the stuff that's too nerdy for TV. If you're listening, you can also see this podcast on Facebook and YouTube. And that's where you will see Dr. Pepper himself, Dr. Dave Smith. Hello, Dave. Tell us your disclaimer.
Good afternoon. I'm an associate professor at the US Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. However, I do not speak for either of those institutions. What you are getting is direct from me to the Peppers, with no intermediaries except for Chaz, who is the one who actually edits the podcast. But I'm reliably informed that Chaz doesn't edit anything out apart from these long periods of technical glitches or some kind of fuck up, which you actually don't get to see. Yes. And then they're not that entertaining anyway. So that's the only thing that gets edited out. But yeah, that's my disclaimer.
I'm very pleased to report that no one sees how bored we are during the clips. They're full screen clips. You'll never, ever know. Dave, what are you grateful for?
I was at a graduation ceremony this morning. One of my students received her PhD this morning. Oh, yeah. So I have reproduced a doctor.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was great, even at 9:30 in the morning, it was 30 degrees and I was wearing a very heavy academic gown.
And a very heavy fro.
Yeah, it was still a great event. Graduations are always just wonderful events to see. This particular one, there were something like 38 people getting PhDs conferred. And yeah, it's just always excellent to see the birth of new doctors. And we have this kind of ritual at the end of the graduation where everyone in the academic procession on stage we get up and doff our caps to the new PhDs as a way to say, welcome to the club. By the way, we don't usually wear those hats or gowns. Yeah.
And you, not all the time.
No. It's not.
Well, people know if they've watched this podcast that you don't just get around in those gowns.
Yes, yeah.
And do you just refer to each other as doctors, like the Doctor Who doctors do?
No, we usually refer to each other by our first names.
but when we're talking about them in the third person, you go, the doctors. Do you refer to the doctor? There's some doctors over there.
Not really, no.
No, okay. That would have been really good.
Yeah, no, unfortunately we don't.
I do like, I'm grateful for your sort of Russian doll style imagery of a doctor producing a doctor.
Yes,
which
that's right.
Good. So are you claiming to have made her? Are you saying that she wouldn't have gone anywhere without you?
No. No. She had to do the work herself.
Okay.
She had to do the work herself, but it is a requirement for entry into a doctoral program that you have a supervisor who also has a doctorate.
Oh, okay.
So it is a formal requirement that you do your doctorate with somebody who has one. So in that sense, she couldn't have done it without my supervision, but she was the one who did the work.
I've got you.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I'm grateful for that as well. Another thing which I'm grateful for, this is a weird one.
Yes.
This is a weird one. I'm going to have to explain this one.
Okay.
I'm grateful towards RFK Jr. for one reason. Only for one reason. As you know, I'm not a fan of his candidacy generally. But I think he is honest to a self-destructive degree.
Okay.
And this is what I'm grateful for. I want to tell you about it. As you know, Fox News boosted his candidacy all year.
Yes.
When they thought he was undermining Biden.
Yes.
But then when he went independent, it became pretty obvious pretty quickly, according to the polls, that he was taking more votes from Trump, potentially, than from Biden.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, Fox's attitude overnight changed. And he suddenly had much more adversarial interviews and much less frequent interviews. Now, cut to this week.
Yeah.
RFK Jr. turns up on Jesse Waters' show. So this is a primetime show on Fox News, right? Yeah. Great opportunity for RFK.
Was Jesse Waters Tucker Carlson's replacement?
Yeah, he's the new Tucker. Yeah.
Yep.
And he's ostensibly there to talk about FBI politicization. That's a
yes
topic for RFK Jr. He loves talking about that kind of thing, right? It's right in the sweet spot.
Yeah.
And there was like a 90-second intro about FBI politicization going into the interview. To just make very clear that's what this was about.
Yes.
5-minute interview.
Yep.
All right. 2 and a bit questions.
Yes.
Question 1. Would you, as president, fire the FBI director? Fair enough. That's what this interview is about.
Yeah.
Question 3. Democrats are trying to stop you getting on the ballot. Wasn't much of an answer for that. He just gave him dotted the I and we're out.
Yeah.
It was like a 30-second answer. Let's go.
Yeah.
The bulk of the interview was question 2.
Right.
Okay. And I want to emphasize
Yeah.
this topic. I'll let you discover it for yourself when I play the clip. This topic came out of nowhere. They're
Okay.
talking about the FBI director.
Yes.
Okay. They're not talking about this person whatsoever.
Yep.
Out of nowhere
Okay.
comes this question.
I'm actually excited to see this.
And,
Well, that would
that's
mean
an
that if you were
important thing. It
president, then
shouldn't-
you'd have to fire the director because this guy is politicized the bejesus out of the Bureau. You weren't ever on Jeffrey Epstein's jet, were you?
I was on Jeffrey Epstein's jet 2 times. I was on it in 1993, and I was on it and I went to Florida with my wife and 2 children to visit my mom over Easter. My wife had some kind of relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell, and they offered us a ride to Palm Beach. So I went then, and then on another occasion, I flew again with my family, with I think 4 of my children, and Mary, my wife, to Rapid City, South Dakota, to go fossil hunting for a weekend, and but otherwise I was never on his jet alone. I've been very open about this from the beginning. This was in '93, so it was 30 years ago. It was before anybody knew about Jeffrey Epstein's his nefarious issues, and I agree with you that all of this information should be released. And we should get real answers on what happened to Jeffrey Epstein and any of the high-level political people that he was involved with. All of that should be open to the public. It should be absolutely transparent. And, I don't see why any of those records would have any redactions in them. Why would we be hiding that from the American public?
Well,
I
you
think
might not
that's
even-
outrageous.
Okay, so that was about 50% of RFK Jr.'s interview about FBI politicization.
Wow.
Do you see my point?
Well, speaking of no redactions, I mean, there's someone who's not going to take the Fifth Amendment.
No.
Yeah.
So let's be clear here. That very much looked like a stitch up. Okay,
Yes,
like there was. You could not get a more damning question to, of all people, RFK Jr.'s supporters than about Epstein's flight. Like, this is conspiracy central, essentially. Right? And it's
My wife had some kind of relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell.
I know. And he got them. I mean, he didn't have to push him. He just asked him. And RFK Jr. just volunteered so much detail. Twice he was on the jet and went into all the details. I mean, that's like getting Joe Biden to admit that he was one of the prostitutes that peed on Trump at the Moscow hotel.
Yeah.
It's just, you just go, hey, wait, how are you involved with Jeffrey Epstein? You of all people.
Yes.
It's just, and by the way, just to be clear, Biden did not pee on Trump.
I did not think you were alleging that.
That is the image I want to stay in your
made
head.
that very clear. That was a simile.
You
said that would be like that.
Just had visions of that one. Yeah.
Okay, so we obviously know that RFK Jr.'s got a bit of a weird voice, but Jesse Waters, he sounds like he's gone a couple of rounds with Mike Tyson. That was a very slow and laboured question.
Yeah. Well,
Does he normally sound like he's been punched in the head?
I wouldn't describe it as that, but he normally sounds like that, so I guess so.
Okay, right.
I guess so. But I mean, the thing is, my point is that RFK had a choice there. He did not have to answer like that.
No,
He really didn't. Like, he could have changed the topic. That's what a normal politician would do.
Yes, yeah.
Or, if he wanted to be especially honest, he could have answered it, but led with his defense. He could have said, I did it twice 30 years ago before any of this happened.
No, but instead, before he tells us any of that, he's like, my wife was there, my kids were there. She had some kind of relationship with
Glenn Maxwell. Yeah, exactly. It was just incredible. So
Well,
I give him credit for that, though.
President Truth.
I give him credit for
The truth, the whole truth.
that.
And more than the whole truth.
Way more. More.
All the truth you didn't want to know.
I should say one thing. If I'm going to compliment his honesty, I should say that Newsweek a few weeks back ran a piece on him in which they mentioned in passing, quote, a spokesperson for the former Democrat exclusively told Newsweek that he had flown one time on Jeffrey Epstein's private plane. He's just telling everyone. It was in 1993 from New York City to Palm Beach, Florida to visit RFK Jr.'s mum for Easter. The spokesperson added that the private jet trip was made possible by Kennedy's then wife, Mary Richardson Kennedy, who was friendly with Epstein's partner at the time. The reason I read that out, they said one time. He went two times.
Twice.
So you might go, Chaz, he's not being honest, is he? But that was a spokesperson who said that.
Yeah.
I could totally see how there could have been Chinese whispers when when they're asking him something, he's saying something
was
back.
it a return flight? Would that count as once or twice?
I'm not sure. But all I'm saying is from what we just saw there, I don't think he was dishonest for Newsweek either. I think that's genuine confusion. I think he seems to be happy to tell everyone about his flight on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. But so
I went on a private jet. Isn't that cool?
Grateful might not be the right word, but I'm impressed.
Okay.
I'm impressed.
You're impressed.
I'm impressed with him committing suicide on his campaign yet again. Which, by the way, doesn't mean, look, he's honest, doesn't mean he's not wrong about everything.
No.
But I just think he's proven that at least he's trying to be honest generally. Okay, anyway, that's what I'm grateful for. Correspondence. Let's get, this one's from Ninja. This one's from me, actually. It says, Chaz, I think I have to disagree with your point about people disliking the country you flee from and loving the one you flee to. Remember I was talking about refugees from Gaza, for instance. You mentioned Sweden just before this, and as a Swede, Ninja, welcome Swede. That's lovely.
Okay.
As a Swede, we have had serious riots here over Quran burnings, for example, which are allowed as a direct product of our freedom of speech, laws and traditions. With your reasoning, you'd think the people coming here from oppressive regimes in the Middle East would be against that sort of thing. He means rioting against Quran burning. Or that they wouldn't continue to repress their own children with various honour rules like virginity testing, arranged marriages, FGM, etc. Female genital mutilation, that is. If you come here as an economic migrant especially, you're here for that reason, no? The money part. You might still want to keep previous allegiances and traditions. A last example that has played out in other European countries too, pro-regime Eritreans clashing with anti-regime Eritreans. If they love their current highly oppressive regime, why didn't they stay there? So first of all, do you have any comments about that, I thought?
I think that migrants often have very complicated relationships with the countries that they leave behind. Some leave because they are dissidents. Some leave because there are aspects of it that they don't like or that make their life very hard, but they still do have quite strong cultural ties. I mean, I think in the case of Muslims in Sweden, just because they might not like the many aspects of repression that you often find in authoritarian regimes, that doesn't mean that they're like, great, now we're in the land of free speech. I'm really going to enjoy someone attacking the most sacred part of my identity with the blatant reason of just trying to piss me off. So I don't think that's a very nuanced view.
But do you think that he's got a point that I was oversimplifying things when I was saying if a refugee is coming to your country, they're probably going to be quite amenable to your culture?
I would say refugees actually are the people who are fleeing because it's not just that they disagree with the regime, it's because they're in danger from the regime. They're actually fleeing persecution. I've got to admit, I don't know the Swedish situation very well, but I don't think that every Muslim there is a refugee.
Yeah.
You're talking about refugees
from Gaza,
who are actively fleeing Hamas.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with your point. I don't think that they should be regarded as a terrorist threat. Now, I do get the point that this reader's like he's making some valid points about, yes, people do, I don't think anyone ever completely cuts off all of their allegiances with where they came from. But at the same time, first of all, I don't think he's explained it in a very nuanced way. Second, I don't think that actually contradicts your point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all I would add is, and this is actually neither here nor there, but when we're talking about this kind of stuff, I think we should note every time we talk about this is that European migration is different to American or Australian migration as well.
True, yes.
And that why I'm referring to that is, for whatever reason, this is a whole different topic. Europe tends to see less integration with migrants than America and Australia do.
Yes. Yep.
People will often refer to France being a very culturally divided society, where you have literally generations of people in these racialized ghettos staying there, not integrating. But that's a European thing for some reason. I do have my theories, but I just wanted to flag that.
Yep.
That is just that doesn't invalidate the point that Ninja's making. I do acknowledge that it is that I was being a bit. I was oversimplifying it maybe a little, but I think your point is correct as well, David. We're talking about refugees. He explicitly is talking about, Ninja's explicitly talking about economic migrants.
Right, yes.
Which is also different.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I just wanted to throw it out there because I thought, I just want everyone to know that we've got Swedish peppers, essentially. Okay. Next correspondence. This is also about oversimplifying things. Jeff responds to the point that I made about a court finding that Trump did incite a riot, in fact, but not holding him legally responsible under the 14th Amendment.
Yep.
I noted that you can't really appeal factual interpretations by judges, just legal interpretations. Jeff says, quote, "The appeals court can overturn findings of facts, but only if the finder of facts has made an egregious error based on the information developed on the record, i.e. no reasonable jury could have possibly come to the conclusion the evidence presented has proven the facts determined by a juror." So the reason why I say that is because overturning facts on appeal is extremely rare and difficult, but is possible in cases where there is a nut job jury or judge on a bench trial has made a very obvious error, and we sometimes deal with nut job judges in America.
Yeah.
So I just want to flag that.
I was going to say, okay, yes.
So noted. I note that.
Okay.
I mentioned we mentioned the fourth debate, the fourth Republican debate 2 weeks ago. Just an update on that. That was yesterday. We're not going to talk about it, are we?
No, I didn't see it.
Okay, well, I did. I don't want to talk about it. If you want to hear about that, watch Friday's Play America. We talked about it for 20 minutes. I'm not going to mention here except to say one thing. While these guys were debating in an alternative universe, this is a clip that I saw this week in our current universe on a TV channel, which you won't believe is in our universe, called Real America's Voice.
Real America's Voice.
Yeah.
Trump is no longer a man. He's a superhero to a vast swath of America. Superman, Batman, Elvis, and the Beatles rolled into one. Trump is our last stand. The evil cabal in power wants Trump dead, disqualified, or imprisoned for life. They're clearly scared to death that Trump is the only thing standing in the way of their evil plans. If the communists, globalists, DC swamp creatures, and deep state traitors succeed in taking Trump down, we are all next, you and me.
This guy's next.
That is our current universe that guy exists in. Superman, Batman, Elvis, and the Beatles all rolled into one.
He sounds like he should have been a voice actor on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, what a good call.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's what happened to them.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Michelangelo. He ended up on Real America's Voice. How would you be if you were Batman, though? That man, think about Batman. He's got no superpowers. Like, everything he does is with his own investments and with his own training. Think about all the investments and training he's put into. And all he had to do was just tweet a bit of shit about right-wing causes, and he could have been not just as good as himself, but also thrown Superman, the Beatles, and Elvis in there as well.
Yeah.
Poor Batman. Anyway, my point is the debate didn't matter. Well, that's the world that Republicans live in. Cornel West update.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think that he's going to get on 0 ballots.
Really?
Because what happened this week was Forbes revealed how much money he's raised.
How much?
In the third quarter, he raised $250,000.
Wow.
He got a lot of publicity for
Yes.
$250,000. That's not enough to get on ballots.
No.
That's not nearly enough. You need literally to get over 1 million signatures, you need for 50 states, you need tens of millions of dollars to go through all the process. You need a huge team. The man has only held one rally in full stop. He's got 10 staff.
Yeah.
And this is the most important thing. He's not the only one in that situation, but he is the only one in that situation who's sworn off a super PAC.
Right.
It's usually super PACs that do that kind of lifting for you. They give you the money fast.
Yes.
And they give you organisation heft.
The old purity might be working against him.
Yeah.
Here.
So I don't think he's going anywhere. Just want to flag that. Since I saw that, I thought,
okay, good to
0
know.
states for Cornel.
Yeah. Should have stayed with the Greens.
Yeah, it would have
Really?
been.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot easier.
Yeah.
That's what I've got to say for him. Religion correspondence, Dave.
Okay.
This one's definitely for you. I think you're going to talk about religion.
Yep.
This is from David. I don't know if you're asking yourself this question.
No.
But what do you guys view on religion? Obviously, you're not of the Mike Johnson variety.
Yes.
So what's your view, Dave?
I'm not sure if he's asking about my own personal religious beliefs.
I think he is.
Or commitment. Okay, well, in that case, there's not very much to tell. Like, it's somewhere between agnostic and atheist.
Yeah.
But in terms of my views about religion.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Right.
As well.
So the thing is, I do have a religious background. My father's a minister in the Uniting Church, which is very much on the left of Christianity in Australia. I've got to admit, I probably don't know as much about the Bible as I should for someone who had that upbringing. In fact, I've been corrected on my biblical mishaps on PEP before by peppers who are more knowledgeable than I have. But anyway, this is what gave me my long-term interest in religion. This is why my field of research is religion and politics. And I have to say, I am fundamentally pro-religion. I think that religion is a force for good in the world. I know that it is linked to all kinds of terrible things as well, but what I most associate with religion is the kind of comfort and meaning and community that it gives to people. So that's my view on religion. I'm not religious myself, but I consider myself friendly to religion. Most of my research has been, or at least a lot of my research has been about the political struggles of religious groups with whom I would profoundly disagree. My dissertation in my book was about the persecution of very conservative religious minorities in the United States, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, the Nation of Islam. These are not groups that I would want to be part of, although I did get to know a lot of Mormons really well, and I really, really like them. But the experiences of persecution that they underwent in the United States were very serious, and I would not want to see that happening to anyone. So I'm not religious, but I'm pro-religion would be how I'd summarize my views on religion. Now, I don't really need to preface this by saying regular listeners to PEP know my views on the Christian right in the United States. However, having said that, the kinds of individual lives that adherents of the Christian right lead, the kind of community that they find in their churches, I've got no problem with that.
Yeah, you don't criticize the Christian right. You criticize the Christian right's politics.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
For what it's worth, no one really cares what I think on this topic, I imagine. But for what it's worth, I'm very similar.
Yeah.
Like in that my Thai family is religious.
Yep.
My wife is religious. Her parents are actually foot soldiers in the church.
Really?
In the left wing church.
Yep.
Yeah,
okay, right.
My entire life I've been surrounded by religion. But I personally have never had any faith.
Yeah.
When I was a little kid, my mum was constantly trying to argue with me to convince me about religion. I used to call myself an agnostic.
Yeah.
But in reality, I'm an atheist.
Okay.
It just doesn't ring true to me. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's
Just try and imagine someone having an argument with childhood Chaz about this.
yeah. It's
that's the thing. You can see the good that it does for people,
Yeah.
but if you don't actually believe it's true, then it's kind of hard to.
Yeah. I also agree with you. I think that it does a lot of good. I think that it makes life easier for people, especially makes it easier for you to be good.
Yes, yeah.
You're right. There's a comfort there.
Yes, yeah.
Like you never ask yourself, is the effort I'm putting in here completely pointless? Like it gives you meaning. It creates a depth for you. It creates a feeling of depth for you that you wouldn't get otherwise.
That's right. Yes.
And so I totally see the benefits of it, but I just don't believe it.
Yeah.
I wish I did, but I don't. So yeah, I don't think there's really much else to say, is there?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. Yep.
Okay. All right. Florida correspondence here from Wayne. Did you see that they cancelled there's a lot of correspondences here, but this whole episode is going to be quite bitsy.
Yep.
We did the big stuff last
Yes.
time. Did you see that they cancelled the Democratic primaries in Florida, Tennessee, and North Carolina? Florida deadline was like today for nominees, but the Democratic Party had a meeting on the 29th of October and asked for candidates there and then. Only Biden had representative, hence the only nominee, and therefore cancelling the primary. Democratic Party gave to Florida Secretary of State the names of their nominee to put on presidential ballot next year already. So the three other Democrat candidates for president can't even appeal the decision, as the Florida Secretary of State is adjudicator in this case. And you presume he would want the matchup of Biden v. Trump in Florida. Okay, so Wayne, you should do news. That was a very accurate summary of what happened.
Well done. I mean, to be fair, from what we've heard about the Florida Democratic Party, I don't know that they'd be capable of organising a primary.
I'm surprised they could organise one person.
Yeah. I'm surprised they could organise an announcement that they've cancelled. That they've cancelled a primary.
Yeah, look, there are a lot of headlines out there which are far more misleading than what Wayne said about how the Florida primary was cancelled, etc., and then just leaving it at that, like it just came out of the blue.
Yeah.
But like Wayne said, there was only one candidate represented at the meeting, and that was it.
By the way, on that note, I saw on the Washington Post website, Marianne Williamson's people must have complained long and bitterly to the Washington Post.
Yeah.
Because I saw you might have missed all these little segments. What Marianne Williamson thinks about this. What Marianne Williamson, it's like Marianne Williamson on all of the issues. Someone must have lobbied hard to get that in there.
Maybe. Dean Phillips, he's talking about lawsuits. Jank Yuga says, we're not trying
Speaking of embarrassing people on private planes.
Yes, certainly. Yeah, we did recall that story. That's one of my favourite of this year, the Dean Phillips story of him trying to take selfies constantly on Biden's Air Force One. Yeah. Jank Yuga said, we're not trying to create a conflict here. We're just trying to do the bare minimum of getting on the ballot. And we've all earned it, and there's no need for this conflict. The Florida Democrats communications director said the process by which the party determines names to submit for the primary ballot was routine. Quote, it was posted for months. It wasn't a secret. There was no conspiracy. They didn't get any votes. It's not our responsibility to whip for them. Okay, so let's go to the website, shall we? It says, quote, the Florida Democratic Party State Executive Committee will consider and approve a list of recognized Democratic presidential candidates at its meeting held on the weekend of the state convention. By November 30, 2023, the Florida Democratic Party will submit a list of its presidential candidates to the Secretary of State to be placed on the presidential preference primary ballot. The state convention was the 27th of October, so that all checks out. They followed the rules they had on the paper. Having said that, it doesn't say anywhere how you should be represented at that meeting. Doesn't even mention it. I just read you the entirety of the primary process in the rules. I would not say that's the world's best process, as you say. No. This is the Florida Democrats are talking about.
I was going to say, and I mean, 19 out of 20 times, incompetence rather than conspiracy is the explanation.
Yeah, sure. And look, if we're being honest here, come on.
Yeah.
There's no primary. I don't care. I don't have Chank's a pepper.
Yeah.
Dude, there's no primary. I'm sorry. If there was a primary, if there was a real primary, then they wouldn't have done this. Because they wouldn't have got away with it.
Yeah. Can I? Yeah. I actually was planning to ask you about this at some point.
Okay, yeah, go on.
What do you think it would look like if all of a sudden Biden withdrew from the race or died or was
what would happen?
Was medically incapacitated? Yeah. If that happened tomorrow, what do you think? Would there be a scramble to actually have a primary? Would Kamala Harris be widely accepted as the replacement candidate? Would someone like Buttigieg make a leap for it?
I mean, it's hard to know what goes through, say, for instance, Gavin Newsom's head. Right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and it'd be a really interesting question for Gretchen Whitmer in particular, because I was just noting the other day, she is supremely well positioned for 2028.
Yes, yeah.
Like if she just shuts up, keeps a lid on, doesn't screw up, I think that she could well be the overwhelming favourite in 2028.
Yeah.
So I don't know what her incentive is at this point in time.
Yep.
But as far as the regulations go, they can do whatever they like until the convention.
Right, yes.
So they could scrap every single rule so far, every single primary, and hold a completely new primary with completely new dates for every state. Or they could have a national primary if they wanted to.
That's what I was imagining was happening, or would happen. And I don't think this is very likely, but it's one of these things that you can't rule out. I definitely don't think they would just say, "Hey, Kamala, go for it." No. I think that they would try and create. Do you think would she be the front runner in the election though? In the primary.
In the primary, I think that she would be the front runner at the beginning, but I think it wouldn't take very long for her to stop being the front runner if she screwed up.
Yeah.
Like I think that she has the inside running, but I mean I think we've seen before that people can jump off her real fast.
Yeah.
And I think at that point in time, there'll be so much desperation amongst Democrats. Yeah. It'll be back to, remember when Biden first got the gig? Like that period in the 2 or 3 weeks before he got the gig, there was so much despair amongst Democrats.
Yes.
And they was going, oh no, it's going to be Sanders and it's going to be, they're going to talk about Cuba. Yeah. And remember those Cuba stories that they were surfacing at the time. Like, oh my God, there's going to be the socialist this and the socialist that. And it was a big freak out. And then all of a sudden they just rigged it all for Biden to win, basically. It was just Buttigieg
and didn't rig it.
No, I don't mean in a corrupt way. I mean they coordinated.
He got a very important endorsement from James Clyburn.
Yeah, and also Buttigieg and Klobuchar just got the hell out of there they were his two most likely rivals at that moment.
Yes,
like the Republicans would never do that.
Yeah.
Like they just got the hell out of it when they were number 2 and number 3. Yes. Goodbye. The Democrats would be capable of doing that again, I think.
Yeah.
If Kamala was not floating in the first few weeks of the primary race.
Yeah.
But she'd certainly start with inside range, but this is all speculation. I was just going to say that a question which I had, which I was looking up about, was this is all very well to say Florida's got this terrible process, but, and also that doesn't matter, but Marianne Williamson, she was on the primary in 2020.
Yeah.
She's not on the primary in 2024. Does she have different people? Like, what's going on? Whoever organised in 2020, why didn't they do the same thing in 2024? That's weird to me. And I was looking around, and it just so happens that someone asked her, which was lovely. It's the Florida Phoenix asked her.
The Florida Phoenix?
I'd never even heard of the Florida Phoenix, but I was just Googling, and there was the Florida Phoenix. They asked Marianne Williamson what she did differently this time because she was on the ballot in 2020. She said, well, in 2020, I was in the debates, so it was very difficult to claim that I wasn't a candidate in 2020.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's very difficult to claim that the rest of us aren't on the ballots, aren't candidates this time either. They're doing this just because they can, and we're here because we want to make clear that they can't. So it's very clear to me she has no idea about the procedure whatsoever.
No. I don't think she's the most detail-oriented candidate.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. Look, bottom line, my take on this, I know you didn't ask my take, you asked me about hypotheticals, but just for Wayne, my take on this is that, this is a bullshit process, clearly, but you know what? That's why you have campaign managers.
Yes.
That's their job. You pay them a big bucks.
That's true. Yes.
To look at 50 states' websites.
Yes.
And when you go to the website and you see it's really vague and you're not sure how to be part of the process, the campaign manager or their underlings then calls them up and says, not just now, they call them up 6 months ago and they say, how do you do what you need to do? That's their job.
Yes.
It's not, while the Florida Democrats are hopeless, it's not it's not rank corruption's fault that
No.
these guys have terrible campaigns.
Yeah.
Like, and if they had a proper campaign, like Marianne Williamson probably had back in 2020 and might not have now,
Yeah.
they'd be on the ballot. So, I mean, I'm a bit unsympathetic in that regard.
I'm completely unsympathetic.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely unsympathetic.
They're actually, believe it or not, the updates continue, but let's get into some content and then we might do a few more updates later on. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about Congress. There's a few Congress things.
Yes.
Dave, talk about Mike Kevin. When I say Mike Kevin, I'm talking about Kevin McCarthy.
Yes.
The reason I call him Mike Kevin is because that's what Trump called him once. And Kevin McCarthy will never live that down. Tell us about Mike Kevin.
So he has announced his retirement. His speakership lasted for a shorter time than our last episode of PEP. And he has decided it is not worth his while to stick around in Congress. I did not read his editorial about this, announcing it in the Wall Street Journal, because it was
so should have
behind a paywall.
I've got quotes here.
Okay, yes, give us the quotes.
I'll give you some quotes.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that you were going to set me up like this. So I've only got laughable quotes.
Okay, good. Good. Send in the clowns.
Send the clowns. Yep.
Yep.
I have decided to depart the House at the end of this year to serve America in new ways. I know my work is only getting started, he says. This is a man who is odds on to become a lobbyist, by the way.
Yes.
No matter the odds or personal cost, we did the right thing. That may seem out of fashion in Washington these days, but delivering results for the American people is still celebrated across the country. I go knowing...
So many results. Drowning in results.
Yeah, honestly, does he know that we were there when he was speaker?
Greatest speaker of all.
We were there. We were watching him. We know that they literally did nothing.
Even the most celebratory accounts have basically listed bills that he got through the House that never had any chance of passing the Senate.
Yes, that's right. Oh, and the fact that he stopped the debt being defaulted on. Congratulations. You cleared the lowest possible limbo bar. You did not destroy the country.
Yeah. Okay, so what else does speaker results say?
He says, I go knowing I left it all on the field. As always, with a smile on my face.
Yeah.
And looking back, I wouldn't have had it any other way. We were there. You never smiled. You elbowed someone in the kidney on your way out.
He definitely left something on the field. And I'm sure he did have a smile on his face when he did that. But so what we need to know is, first of all, how many people, like Congress goes into recess on the 14th.
Yeah.
How many people can he kidney punch in that time? Can he get all 8 of... This would make a great Tarantino movie, like Kevin McCarthy's last week in Congress. The 8 people who voted against him sort of all looking behind their shoulders constantly, just waiting for the kidney punch.
Is it possible that movie could be too violent even for Tarantino? The sheer blood coming from kidneys.
Anyway, Quentin, obviously well-known Pepper, please make this movie. Now, I was reading, so Gavin Newsom will call a special election.
Has he said when?
No, but what I read said California's laws make it likely that it won't be until the summer.
Oh, okay.
Next year. Now, McCarthy has a very Republican state there in the Interior Valley of California, so there's no question that a Republican will replace him. But if it takes that long, like 6 or 7 months, that means that with our other boy, George Santos, now out of the house. And by the way, he is doing the most predictable thing in the world. He's offering himself up for that Cameo video service. Yeah, with highly predictable.
I can't believe we didn't pick that.
Thing. So he's serving America in other ways as well. So with both of them out.
I reckon it's possible that George Santos is serving America better than Kevin McCarthy will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even on Cameo.
Absolutely. So that's now a functional majority of 2.
Yeah.
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 For a long time.
Yeah.
When I don't know when the New York special election is.
It's February.
Okay.
So, but importantly, it's after all the shutdown shenanigans are over.
Because Republicans could definitely lose Santos's seat.
Yeah.
I
could.
don't know what the odds are on that, but yeah. But anyway, so they've got a functional majority of 2 for the next 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
That's small.
So what you have to say from that then is that
Yes.
Kevin McCarthy, to use the word I used on Planet America,
Yeah.
engaged in an act of bastardry.
He really did.
He really, really did.
Yeah.
Just screw Mike Johnson over as hard as he possibly could.
Yep.
He could at least wait till February.
Yes.
At least.
Yeah. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's response to this was to once again condemn the 8. She's like, you are the ones who have got us into this situation. She's openly warning that Republicans will lose in 2024.
Because of the 8.
Yeah, because of the 8.
Yeah. And she doesn't blame Kevin McCarthy for resigning.
No.
No, look, why would you?
No. She
Why
is
would you?
remaining a loyal ally to him even after he resigns. I won't say that Marjorie Taylor Greene is full of surprises,
Sure.
but she did turn out to be more loyal to McCarthy than I expected.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Fair enough. So do you want to say more on McCarthy?
Not really. I mean, what are we going to do? Yeah, recap his achievements?
No, let's not do it. Well, I think I just read out his recap of his own
By the way,
achievements, which is not to mention them.
A lot of stories about this have gleefully mentioned the Young Guns book. I feel like we were the first.
We were totally the first.
We were the first, but yeah, this has now been rediscovered because he's the last of the Young Guns to depart.
Yeah.
Eric Cantor was the first after getting primaried in 2012 by, do you remember who?
Dave Bratt.
Dave Bratt.
There
What
we
happened to
go.
Dave Bratt?
I have no idea.
Yeah, anyway. But yes, Paul Ryan was next.
Yep.
And and now
Kevin McCarthy.
Now McCarthy.
Now my
all
Kevin.
gone. So the Young Guns have all ridden off into the sunset.
Oh, so sad. I wanted to, on this note, just go a slight right turn, which is to note that there were 40 Congress people in total who did not seek re-election in 2020.
Yep.
And there were 55 in 2022.
Yep.
Which was a wave, was kind of a wave-ish election.
Yep.
At least it was meant to be.
Yeah.
So far in 2024, we're up to 38 and counting. So it's adding up.
Yes, yeah.
You know, like it's not extraordinary yet, but I think it's moving that way.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah. Now, not all of them are just retiring. 11 are running for the Senate, 5 for state or local office, 1 for president.
Yeah.
Dean Phillips. And 1 has resigned to become a university president. So that leaves 20 who have just had enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the question I'm asking is, do we have a problem that's forming here with people not wanting to stay in Congress? Like, because this is not a wave election right now. This is just people just going, I had enough. Just before you answer, I will note that I've seen a couple of articles discussing this issue. And there was one Republican, Doug Hay, who said, the quote from him is, what's troubling isn't the number, but the caliber of members leaving. I don't think it's about Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
An appropriations chair. Up-and-comers who are on the cusp of making their mark on the House. These people shouldn't be leaving.
Yeah.
And he cited 5-term congressman in Ohio, Brad Wenstrup, and Democratic 6-term lawmaker Derek Kilmer, who's only 49 years old. No, you wouldn't have heard of either of them. I hadn't. But his point is they were about to take the step up.
Yes, yeah.
They had just had enough experience. They were popular.
Yeah.
And then they retired. And he also notes that Kilmer led the Select Committee on Modernization in Congress for 4 years, trying to develop proposals to improve how Congress functions. Then he left. Dan Kildee of Michigan said that he wanted to spend more time at home with his family.
Yes.
But he also cited the violence at the Capitol. He said January 6th doesn't stand alone as an event unseparated from the current political environment that we're in. The coarsening of political speech, the anger, the obsessive belief in conspiracy theories with no foundation, all of that is of a piece with January 6th. It's hard for me to separate that from the decision to come home because that wears on the person. No matter what anyone says, that gets to you.
Yeah.
And then someone else, Brennan Boyle from Pennsylvania, said, it's exactly the wrong people who are wanting to leave. The performance artists love the circus. It's what they crave. If you all leave now... He's referring to normal people. You're only going to make it worse. What are your thoughts?
This is really interesting because there's been a worldwide wave of politicians actually leaving when they're on top. I mean, just in Australia, we had 3 premiers. Some of the most successful premiers in their states' histories in terms of the election victories that they were creating. So Daniel Andrews in Victoria,
Mark McGowan
Yep. in Western Australia, and the Tasmanian guy whose name begins with G.
Oh, I don't remember.
Now, all of them, I think that was related to the pandemic. Like the pandemic was a very, very difficult thing, incredibly stressful thing to guide their states through. But they came out more popular than ever, and then they're like, yeah, had enough. Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand. Now, she was, I don't know if she could have gone to a 3rd victory in New Zealand, maybe not. But, you know, her exit definitely sealed the New Zealand Labor Party's fate. Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland. Now,
Peter Gutwin is the
Gutwin. Yeah. Now, so these are all very respected figures, and given that it's such a cliche to say, oh yeah, you should go out on top. It's such a surprise when someone actually does it in politics. Now, all the people that you've mentioned,
but those guys aren't on top.
Yeah, but as you say, they're people who seem to be on their way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're on their way up.
On their way to the they weren't
Yeah.
people who had failed egregiously, but they decided it's too much. Now, some part of me actually admires people who are doing well in politics and then voluntarily step down because they don't like the job, because they feel that the job is killing them, even if they're doing it well. I would certainly prefer to have good, competent people rather than incompetent people there. But if it's hurting them, if it's then I completely respect the decision to step down, and I certainly would much prefer people to step down having done a good job than to hang around forever and become the kind of demented golems that you see lurking around in the caves of politics and the media, forever trying to get the ring back, which that type is far too common in both American and Australian politics. So I would much prefer that. But ultimately, yes, it is a problem if things are systematically so bad that people who actually care about the job and can do a good job of it are just being turned off it by the Matt Gaetzes of the world, right? If we've got a system which is actively rewarding the Matt Gaetzes and punishing people who got into it because they were interested in policy and were good at it, then that is a definite problem, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have anything else on that topic, the Kevin Congress type topic?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, let's move on to the supplemental bill, which is run aground. Obviously, the headline here is about Ukraine versus immigration.
Yep.
Which is where the Senate are negotiating at the moment. Do you want to talk to this a bit, or do you want me to start?
I would like you to start.
Okay, all right. So, just some background of where we're at in terms of popularity. According to Gallup, 41% said US is doing too much to support the war in Ukraine. 33% said America is doing the right amount. 25% said America is doing too little. So you could argue that 58% at this point in time want to keep on going at the very least. It's not absurdly popular, but it's a majority. 54%, this once again Gallup, said they still prefer prolonging the war to help Ukraine capture lost territory. 43% said they would prioritize ending the war more quickly. Now, those numbers have shifted from 66% to 31%, which was just over a year ago.
Right.
Okay, so that's the background. Oh, yeah, and just generally, like I like to do when I talk about wars, estimates at the moment are that about 500,000 soldiers and civilians have been killed or injured. Both sides, that is.
Yep.
And the World Bank estimates the war's done about $135 billion in damage to Ukraine's infrastructure. And at this point in time, Russia controls about 18% of Ukraine's territory, depending on how you define Ukraine's territory. Okay, so Congress have been trying to negotiate a trade-off immigration reform for Ukraine funding. And this is really key for Biden because Ukraine policy is the only Biden policy that is above water. When I say is that has a higher approval than negative, right? According to Quinnipiac, Biden gets 47% approval for his Ukraine policy to 46% disapproval. So that's 1%. But still,
That's a nostril above water.
yeah, that's better than immigration, which is underwater by 37 points. That is his least popular policy. So Biden would have a very tough time explaining to people why he allowed Congress to stop funding the Ukrainian resistance, which people comparatively like.
Yes.
Because he didn't want to change anything about his extremely unpopular border plan.
Right, yes.
So it's really in his interest
Yep.
to get something happening here, right? The thing is, Republicans know that.
Yeah.
They're not stupid. Right? And so they're not just going to hand it to him.
Yep.
Right? They're going to try and get as much out they can out of it. And in fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'll give her credit. I don't often think that she's on the money here, but from a political point of view. But this is a quote from her. Democrats will never enforce our strong, secure border policies. They would just use them as a win at the polls. And Ukraine is a losing war racked with corruption that the majority of Americans do not support. This is a bad strategy. While I disagree with her about Ukraine, I think from a political Machiavellian point of view, I think she actually speaks a bit of sense there.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, so they're going to try to get anything they can. Also, I should say, just leaving aside Machiavellianism, just from an ideological point of view, there's a problem here for Democrats in that they're at loggerheads ideologically on immigration with the people they're negotiating with here.
Yes.
Because Democrats believe that the problem with the border at the moment is that there isn't enough order.
Yes.
They don't have a problem with the numbers.
No.
They've got a problem with the unknown factor of people getting over the border who they have no control over and no knowledge of. Whereas Republicans have a problem with the number.
Yes.
Even if it was perfectly ordered, they'd still be just as upset.
Yes, yeah.
They do not believe in unlimited, controlled migration.
Yes.
And so they're at loggerheads on what they're trying to achieve as well, right? The problem is that's immigration. As far as Ukraine goes, they're running out of time. I'll just read you from the OMB director, Shalanda Young. She warned in a letter this week, without congressional action, by the end of the year, we will run out of resources to procure more weapons and equipment for Ukraine and to provide equipment from US military stocks. There's no magical pot of funding available to meet this moment. We are out of money and nearly out of time. In response to that exact letter, Mike Johnson said, the Biden administration has failed to substantively address any of my conference's legitimate concerns about the lack of a clear strategy in Ukraine, a path to resolving the conflict, or a plan for adequately ensuring accountability for aid provided by American taxpayers. Meanwhile, the administration is continually ignoring the catastrophe at our own border. So he's got problems even aside from immigration. But that's where they're at. So now they've got these negotiators. You got in the Senate, who haven't got to the House, just went to the Senate. And the Republicans in the Senate are more moderate than the ones in the House. Chris Murphy is a Democrat negotiator. He says, quote, right now it seems pretty clear that we're making pretty big compromises and concessions and Republicans aren't willing to meet us anywhere close to the middle. The senator, he said the door is open to re-engaging, but, quote, there's no path based upon the place where things were at the end of last week. Okay, now you hear that and you go, well, that's what he has to say. Republicans might say something else.
Yeah.
We're getting so little information in what they're discussing. The only information we're getting is leaked from Democrats.
Right.
Whether you believe it or not, I don't know. I'll tell you what they're saying. They're saying that the Republicans asked them to tighten up the standards under which migrants could claim asylum, and they were happy to do that. They didn't say what those grounds were, where they meant tighter language, or where they meant you can't go through a third country, which is something that Biden's already doing.
Yep.
They didn't say. They said that the Republicans asked for parole at the moment. When you're from Venezuela or you're from Haiti or I forgot what the other country is, Ecuador, I think. Between those three countries, 30,000 people can get parole just from being from those countries. Republicans said no. If you're going to give parole, it needs to be on an individual basis. And apparently Democrats conceded that.
Yep.
The Republicans also demanded defense detention camps on Department of Defense detention camps on US military bases, which is code for lawless.
Yes.
That's why they want it on military bases. They want another Gitmo, basically, but just for illegal immigrants. Australians will be familiar with that logic. Yep. We certainly can't criticise that if you're in a military base, you can't appeal the ruling of a tribunal, right? So that's what they want. Democrats aren't going to want to give that up. They also want mandatory detentions for families, even for families with children. The Democrats do not want to give that up. And they also want the president to be given emergency powers to shut down asylum processing entirely at the border for any reason, which obviously is a power for Trump.
Yes, yeah.
And Democrats do not want to give that for obvious reasons. That is what the Democrats say.
Yes.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I do know this. John Cornyn has come out in public. He is the Republican negotiator. Mm-hmm. Said, I think there's a misunderstanding on the part of Senator Schumer and some of our Democrat friends. This is not a traditional negotiation where we expect to come up with a bipartisan compromise on the border. This is a price that has to be paid in order to get the supplemental. So he is saying no negotiating.
Yeah.
And he's, by the way, almost the most moderate Republican as well in the
Yes.
Senate. So that's
Which is insane because I can remember when he was one of the most conservative.
I know. So yeah, but yeah, if they get through him,
Yeah.
and then they get through the Senate,
Yes.
then they have to get through the House. So in other words, we are so far away from Ukraine getting funding.
Yes.
Chris Murphy himself this week said, I just don't think there's any question we are about to abandon Ukraine. This is what he said on the record.
Yeah.
When Vladimir Putin marches into Kyiv and into Europe, Republicans will have to live with the fact that our sons and daughters will be over there fighting when Vladimir Putin marches into a NATO country. They will rue the day that they decide to play politics. What are your thoughts, Dave?
That's a bit of an extreme viewpoint.
I think it's probably, yeah.
Like, I get the rhetorical warning.
He probably skipped a couple of steps
Yes.
to Vladimir
Yeah.
Putin invading NATO.
I get the rhetorical warning that that he's making there. But yeah, I mean, as I say, strategically, I can understand what the Republicans are doing here. Strategically, they absolutely have the upper hand in this negotiation because Democrats have no time. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I should say, I think they've been prepping for this for a little while. I think that they've seen the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Like I've seen a couple of articles being leaked about like from Ukraine of senior officials in Ukraine saying off the record that that this isn't working as well as they thought, and just they're trying to.
I always had the impression, and I think that I mentioned this on PEP, that basically from the start of the year, that Ukraine would have 1 year to start making, to start seriously regaining territory, and that the patience of the United States and of NATO was going to run out after that. I always thought that was essentially what Biden was telegraphing anyway. I mean, I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if they started pushing for if the US started pushing for a negotiated settlement next year.
I think that they're going to start pushing for a negotiated settlement now. I think they're out of money.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they're going to get this money. I don't think this bill is going to pass. No. But we'll see.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been quite pessimistic about this for quite a while.
Yeah.
This is only panning out as I expected. Okay, and then there's another aspect to this supplemental which hasn't really been mentioned much, which is Israel. That isn't a gimme either.
No.
Bernie Sanders is leading a gang of 13 senators. I'll tell you who they are. Ed Markey, Tim Kaine, Mark Warner, Dick Durbin, Jeff Merkley, Tammy Duckworth, Peter Welch, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Chris Van Hollen, Tanya Smith, Chris Murphy, and Jean Shaheen. These are not small-time senators.
No.
That wanting to put conditions on Israel's aid for the first time.
Rand Paul didn't join them?
Well, I don't think he's part of the Democrat group, but he may be joining them.
Yeah.
They say Israel's military must adopt substantive measures to lessen civilian deaths in Gaza as part of receiving the supplemental $14 billion in US aid. And they've listed 3 goals. 1, successful delivery of needed humanitarian aid to civilians under strict and necessary oversight. 2, increased focus on the release of all hostages kidnapped on October 7. 3, opportunity for broader discussion amongst Israeli and Palestinian leadership, together with regional and global partners, about long-term strategies to reduce decades-long conflict in the region. So if you notice, that's all very vague and means nothing. It's just virtue signaling. So I'm not sure that in itself is an issue, but just the fact that they're starting to talk about this.
Yes, yeah.
That this is new.
Yes.
And so I just flagged that.
Yep.
Do you have anything to say about any of that?
No.
Okay, well, that's all I have to say about the supplemental.
Okay.
The next, there's a few congressional things here.
Yes, yeah.
The next thing is the anti-Semitism bill that just passed.
Yes.
Called HRES 894. The vote was 311 to 14 with 92 presents, like as in saying present.
Yep.
They were all Democrats. Want more support? Well, let me tell you what the bill says, first of all. Strongly condemns and denounces all instances of anti-Semitism occurring in the United States and globally. Fair enough.
Yep.
Reaffirms and reiterates a strong support for the Jewish community at home and abroad. Makes sense. Calls on elected officials and world leaders to condemn and fight all forms of domestic and global anti-Semitism. Okay. I'm not seeing anything to... and also rejects all forms of terror, hate, discrimination, and harassment of members of the Jewish community. I'm not seeing anything to be bothered about here. So why would 92 Democrats vote present? I've missed out one item. Clearly and firmly states that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism.
Okay.
So, what are your thoughts?
I can see why then 92% of people voted present.
92.
Well, sorry, the 92
Democrats.
92 Democrats voted present.
Yeah.
Because the two things are not the same thing.
They're not.
And there are, I'm not saying it's a majority of Jews, but there are plenty of Jews who do not like the way that Zionism has gone. So, no. I think it is, even though there is often significant overlap between the two things, and yes, there are definitely people out there who just use Zionist as a code for Jewish.
As a slur.
As a way of, as a way of making an anti-Semitic slur in a semi-respectable way.
Yeah.
I do not deny that, but they are not the same thing. Okay, when I saw graffiti this morning on Derwent Street in Glebe that said Israel dogs Jew scum,
Yes.
Israel was misspelt.
Yeah.
And that's the second time.
Israel?
No, it was AIL. That's the second time that's the second time I've seen that in that spot. There's no way that you can convince me that that's not anti-Semitism because of the fact, that it's despite the fact that it conflates Israel and Jewish, right? So that's a very clear-cut example of anti-Semitism. Anti-Zionism can be, it doesn't have to be anti-Semitic. So there is, but when people use the existence of that overlap to to basically outlaw a whole class of political opinion. I mean, I'm not saying that this is outlawing it. They're talking about strong condemnation rather than outlawing. That is very dishonest.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Jerry Nadler, I want to quote him, who, by the way, is Jewish. The authors, he who voted present, the authors, if they were at all familiar with Jewish history and culture, should know about Jewish anti-Zionism. That was and is expressly not anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
This resolution ignores the fact that even today, certain Orthodox Hasidic Jewish communities have held views that are at odds with the modern Zionist conception.
That's true. Yeah, there are Hasidic communities who believe that the state of Israel is illegitimate because it wasn't founded by God. Naomi Klein, in her book, which I've talked about before, Doppelganger, talks about a counter movement of here-ness within Judaism. That is, of people who, of Jewish people for whom Jewish culture is about where they currently are, not about a future in, not about a future in Israel. So, yes, look, even with all of the overlap that exists between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, this is a very, very dishonest thing to put into a bill that is about fighting anti-Semitism.
I 100% agree, and I also think that it particularly does not help the cause of fighting anti-Semitism to politicize it.
No.
Tommy Tuberville, Dave, your favourite topic.
Tommy Tuberville has dropped his mass hold on military promotions.
Yes, he has.
Yeah. This was the legislative equivalent of bombing Cambodia, really. Just did a lot of damage without improving anyone's strategic position whatsoever. Sorry, that's a very unfair analogy because far fewer people died.
That's true.
As a result.
That's true.
In fact, no one did that I'm aware of.
That is true.
But some people did not get promoted.
Yes.
Now
451.
451. Now as soon as he dropped it, they all got promoted.
Yes.
Together.
Yes.
It was like
the same day.
It was like a Mooney mass wedding that was going on. He only removed his objections for 3-star and under. I think he's still got is it 13?
11.
11
Yeah.
4-star generals
Yes.
on hold.
Yeah.
The explanation that he gave for this on CNN was he said he knew he was never going to win.
Senator Tuberville,
Yes.
do you have any regrets that you didn't achieve exactly what you set out to do, that the policy is still in place?
It was pretty much a draw. I mean, they didn't get what they wanted, we didn't get what we wanted, and it's just, when they change the rules, it's hard to win.
Pretty much a draw, Dave.
Pretty much a draw.
Except for we
Like
didn't
all
win.
those football games that he lost. They were just pretty much a draw.
I knew that was coming. So that was his take.
Yes.
What was your take?
He really managed to make himself pretty hated on his own side.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You see that a lot in the House. You don't see it so often in the Senate. Like, he really is like a man of the House who has somehow managed to find his way into the Senate. Well, I mean, we know the story of how he got into the Senate. It's really because of the fact that Roy Moore got nominated back in 2019. And,
He went out with a 14-year-old.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day.
Yeah. He was still a lot older than 14 then.
Yes.
Yeah. He managed to get beaten by a Democrat in Alabama, which is something that hadn't happened probably since the 80s. And it was, that guy was never going to last very long. So about anybody could have beaten him. Who was it? It was pretty good. Richard, no, not Richard.
You're talking about
Who was the Democrat?
Oh God. I can see him. That's not going to help.
Yeah,
the podcast.
anyway. He always knew.
I'll look it up.
He always knew that he was going to lose. He was quite good. But the point is, anybody could have beaten him. And that's how you end up with Senator Tommy Tuberville.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is how.
So anyway.
I'm still trying to find Doug Jones.
Doug Jones.
There we are. Yeah. Okay. Yes. All I would add to this is I disagree slightly about saying how everyone hated him because certainly, hey, all his colleagues hated him.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, the only reason he dropped the hold was because Schumer finally got 9 Republicans to go on the record.
Yes.
To beat the filibuster, so they changed the rule.
Yep.
So that way, basically, the day that they got the 9th Republican, he gave up.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And Schumer said, "I'm glad this pointless and gravely damaging ordeal has finally ended.
Yeah.
The senior senator from Alabama has nothing to show for his 10 months delay, except for the damage he did to our military readiness and the pain he caused to military families." I disagree with him as well. He does have something to show. He won lots of nice publicity as a fighter amongst the Republican base. Even though the senators might not like him, I reckon the base love him. Because this kind of pointless fight, this is what they live for. And the problem is the system is designed at the moment to incentivize this behavior. He will be richly rewarded in donations because of this. And so, I think he's happy.
Yes.
He didn't win the argument, but he won the publicity war.
Which again is much like his football career.
While you're running hot there, Dave, actually, I want to do one thing quickly more on Congress. I know we talked a lot of Congress, but this is by request as well. Chuck Schumer's trying to push through an amendment to the NDAA at the moment, the defense bill, about UAPs, the old-fashioned UFOs, the Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Disclosure Act of 2023. It's basically modeled after the JFK Records Act, right? And he's joined up with Mike Rounds on this one, the ranking member of the Cybersecurity Subcommittee for the Armed Services Committee. It would give heads of government officers 300 days to organise records in their possession and give them to a review board. Review board is nominated by the president, approved by the Senate. And the review board will determine which documents should remain classified. And the president will have the ultimate authority to postpone disclosure of UAP records for whatever reason if they feel there's an identifiable harm to national security. But regardless of the situation, other than that, they all have to be revealed within 25 years of the day of the first creation. That's a JFK one, right? Okay, so, and they would also order the confiscation of any crash retrieval materials or non-human biologicals.
Yes, yeah.
In the possession of any non-government actors. Now, that's supported by the Republicans on the committee as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Anna Paulina Luna, Tim Burchett. Tim Burchett's got his own more impatient amendment, which is just declassify all records relating to publicly known sightings of UAPs in 180 days, full stop.
Yeah.
But they're both amendments have been supported by both sides. Nothing partisan about this.
Yeah.
But there are Republicans trying to kill it. Mike Rogers is trying to kill it. He's the chair of the House Armed Services Committee. Mike Turner's trying to kill it. He's the chair of the House House Intelligence Committee.
Yeah.
And they've apparently convinced Mitch McConnell and Mike Johnson to either remove or significantly weaken it. And Schumer is starting to go feral about this. So it's a full-on power battle over UAPs.
Wow.
I don't know where this is going. It seems reasonable to me, the bill.
Yeah.
Like the Schumer's bill seems pretty, there's no security concerns with that.
No.
There's plenty of steps along the way for security issues.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts?
Look, I don't think the US government's hiding anything because I don't think it's competent enough to hide anything. Yeah, I don't see what the problem with that bill was.
No. It would be interesting little power battle because I find it difficult. I think Mitch McConnell works in the shadows.
Yes, yeah.
And like I said, right now he might be trying to weaken it. But
Yeah.
if Schumer really continues to like start slapping gavels and so forth, it'll be interesting to see if Mitch McConnell just backs down.
Do you remember how in the X-Files, the suggested conspiracy always was that the military was hiding alien arrivals because they wanted to use alien technology for military purposes?
I don't remember that, but I believe you.
Yeah. So that was a pretty popular conspiracy theory. Now, that's like, if they'd been using alien technology, then the F-23 jet would be able to fly. It would be able to fly when it's raining.
Yeah.
It would be able to be used in combat.
Just imagine. Just imagine. Just blows my
If
mind.
we had access to alien technology, not everything would be as shit as it is now.
And if we did, I bet alien technology is also cheaper to build than the F-23.
Yeah, so that's why I don't believe. I will recommend. I read Cixin Liu's 3-body trilogy earlier this year, which is a science fiction, long science fiction work, like hard science fiction, about a long-running conflict between Earth and Alpha Centauri, which is known as Trisolaris in the book. Really, really interesting stuff.
Is this going on the list?
Yeah, this is going on the list.
Okay.
If you're looking for some sci-fi, if you're one of these people like me who very occasionally dips into sci-fi, this is a really interesting one to get into.
So Kissinger's not on the list, but this is...
Cixin Liu's the 3-body trilogy.
Okay. Thank you. If you want to see that list, go to the blurbs underneath the Facebook or YouTube video.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. Go on.
That's all.
That's all. Okay, all right. Well, you can say things about other things as well. Like, for instance, I know you want to say a little bit about AI.
Do I?
Sports Illustrated.
Oh, yes.
It's a fun story.
Yes. So, Sports Illustrated, a venerable institution.
Dave really wants to talk about this.
Yeah. That is abbreviated as SI, has been busted for using AI to write articles.
Yes.
Now, once again, this sports blog that I read, Defector, covers sports very well. They had a lot of fun with this, but it's a bit disconcerting, not so much about Sports Illustrated, but just about the way that media could be going in general. So what Sports Illustrated said had happened was that they had this third-party group that was producing content for them that is essentially ads.
Yes.
And the reason why everybody assumed that it was AI that did this was because it was quite obviously made up names and also quite obviously made up photos of people.
And bios.
Yeah. And the actual content of what they were writing, it just had this AI feel to it.
I have examples.
Yes, yeah. Give us some examples.
Okay,
of this.
well,
Yes.
first of all, the two main characters in this were Drew Ortiz, whose bio said, Drew has spent much of his life outdoors and is excited to guide you through the never-ending list of the best products to keep you from falling to the perils of nature. Nowadays, there is rarely a weekend that goes by where Drew isn't out camping, hiking, or just back on his parents' farm. That was the bio.
Wow.
Then it was also...
And I love that, like, the AI is like, let's come up with Anglo name and Hispanic name in order to be inclusive.
well...
Drew Ortiz.
Keep that thought, because he was replaced by Sora Tanaka. Her bio says, Sora has always been a fitness guru and loves to try different foods and drinks. Miss Tanaka is thrilled to bring her fitness and nutritional expertise to the product reviews team and promises to bring you nothing but the best of the best. And then the content...
delicious zeros and ones.
I'm going to read you one article and you go, is this from Drew Ortiz or from Sora Tanaka? It doesn't matter, because when they replaced Drew Ortiz with Sora Tanaka, they just gave her the ownership of his previous article.
Yes.
And this article was about volleyballs. Volleyball is one of the most popular sports in the world, and for good reason. It's fast-paced, has a high skill ceiling, and is generally an exciting sport to both play and watch. Even people who don't watch sports can easily understand the intensity and skill required to play volleyball whenever they watch clips. There's a reason why it's been such a mainstay in modern sports to this day. Volleyball can be a little tricky to get into, especially without an actual ball to practice with. You have to drill in the fundamentals in your head before you can really play the game the way it was meant to be played. And for that, you'll need a dedicated space to practice and a full-sized volleyball.
Outstanding. This is...
How could they tell?
This is exactly what you get from software which is expressly designed to evade university anti-plagiarism software and reliably produce a paper that will always get you exactly 63%. Outstanding work.
It's the voice of experience from Dave.
This company, this third-party company, claimed that they were real people, but people who, to protect their privacy, had made up fake names and bios.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm not buying it. Not buying it. Third parties.
No.
Yes.
No.
Anyway, so...
But I think you're right to identify what the issue is.
Yes.
It's the broader issue. So.
The broader issue is the way that media is going, which is basically getting rid of proper writers, getting rid of people who could, in sports, dedicate careers to very in-depth kind of understanding of sports, increasing subcontracting out to third parties who are basically going to go for SEO optimization, or just this really spammy. I mean, that was advertising, wasn't it? That was advertising.
Yeah.
That was advertising for equipment.
These are supposed review articles.
Review articles.
And clearly they were paid to review these particular items. And they weren't real reviews. They were just positive.
Yeah. So this is just filling the internet up with self-replicating garbage that nobody wants to... no one enjoys reading this shit. This is just what you land on when you're... Someone pointed out at Defector... This is so if someone searches Sports Illustrated and volleyball, voila, this is what they come up with.
Yeah.
That's all that it's designed to do. The amount of leaking of this into the media, I think Sports Illustrated is at the vanguard of this, but I think we are going to increasingly see it everywhere, right? Journalistic writing as a profession is becoming degraded.
Yeah. Well, other publications...
People aren't prepared to pay for it. The organisations aren't prepared to pay for it anymore.
Other respected publications have already been caught. CNET, Gizmodo, BuzzFeed, USA Today.
Yeah.
It's out there.
Yeah.
And I think you're totally right. This is obviously the easiest kind of spammy content to make.
Yes,
And it makes money as well.
Yeah.
You can see exactly how AI could, this is the easiest kind of human article to replicate. Yeah. But if you think about where journalism is going, well, I use the word journalism loosely, but that's kind of the point. Yeah. You travel over to news.com and almost, I would say, more than half the articles are just rewriting what someone else has said. Yeah. Either on Twitter or on reality TV.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
And if AI can't do that now, AI will be able to do that
definitely,
within a
yes.
year or two.
Yeah. Oh, it is definitely coming for that.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so that then is half the journos, or
Yes.
half the content
Yes.
produced for free,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
Right? And then and even the next step up is just breaking news coverage is often just regurgitating what someone else has said as well.
Yeah.
Like with the blogs I read, like 3/4 of them are just saying the same thing that you saw in another article.
Yeah.
AI will be able to do that as well.
Yeah.
They'll be able to go, oh, Trump said something outrageous.
Yeah.
That won't be hard. Yeah, and so you go, okay, well, once you've outsourced all of that,
Yes.
and you can see the argument that they're going to make. They're going to say if we can get AI to do that for free, that frees up resources for investigative journalism and for creative journalism, the stuff that you need people for. They will say, right?
No.
But in reality, if that stuff becomes so much more expensive, than the alternative, people will just eventually just stop making the expensive stuff.
Yep.
Like especially if 95% of the content,
Yes.
95, if 99.5% of the content is the cheap stuff, people will get used to it.
Yes.
And so this is the way that journalism dies, potentially.
It's really depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in terms of the now ubiquitous, here's what someone said on Twitter. You know, I can remember when this began, or maybe not began, but when it first really entered my consciousness, I remember the specific moment. It was during the 2014 World Cup, Soccer World Cup. That was in Brazil, wasn't it?
Don't know.
I remember SBS, who had the rights to it. They had this specific half-hour show every day, which was recapping what people had said about Twitter. What said on Twitter about the World Cup, and I remember our friend Dominic Knight making the pretty pertinent observation, like, if I want to know what happened on Twitter yesterday, I'll read Twitter yesterday. It was kind of there's a whole point of Twitter was it was instantaneous commentary on everything, and like here's traditional media saying, oh, here's something that happened on Twitter. I remember looking at that naively thinking, he's absolutely right. Like, this is such a stupid idea. I'm sure they're not going to make this mistake again. Like, little did I know this was going to become like 70% of the media.
Worst ever call.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
So, dear oh dear.
I've got a little toilet break. We haven't had one of these for a while.
Oh, okay.
This is we're going to start back in January for this one.
Yep.
In a Bloomberg News article back in January, Richard Trumka Jr., a Consumer Product Safety Commissioner, who had concerns about gas stoves emitting dangerous levels of toxic chemicals. You will recall this. He was quoted as saying, any option is on the table. Products that can't be made safe can be banned, referring to gas stoves. And conservatives went absolutely wild.
Remember this, yes.
Yeah, and it was a big cultural issue for a little while there. He then...
Well, wasn't there videos of Donald Trump Jr. just turning on a gas stove?
There were.
Content.
One day AI will do that, Dave.
Yeah. And then there's like 50 news stories. Don Jr. turns on stove to make point.
He turned on all of us, Don Jr. Trumpka then took a step back when he realized this was not going well for him. And he said, to be clear, the Consumer Product Safety Commission isn't coming for anyone's gas stoves. Regulations apply to new products, not old products, right? Conservatives went wild anyway.
Yeah.
Then Karine Jean-Pierre tried to tamp down on it. She said the president does not support banning gas stoves. And the Consumer Product Safety Commission, which is independent, is not banning gas stoves. Okay, now I happen to know for a fact from what the FAQ, we did a story on gas stoves.
Yeah.
I can tell you that they can be made perfectly safe. With appropriate exhaust mechanisms. That's the important thing, the exhaust, right? Okay, so given that this was a product safety commission, they were never going to ban gas stoves.
No.
Environmental issues with gas are one thing,
but
the product safety commission is another thing altogether, right? Okay. And by the way, I also know for the same reason that there are cleaner burners out there that are currently not being manufactured. They've been invented, but they're more expensive.
Right.
And so people don't use them.
Yeah.
But it'd be really, really easy for the government to mandate changing gas stoves in a way to make them cleaner if they wanted to.
Yep.
There's a long way to go before you ban a gas stove.
Right, yes,
That's what I'm
yeah.
saying, right?
Yep.
At worst, that's a distant threat, right? Okay, so anyway, so that's all back in January.
Okay.
So ever since then, there's been a little burst of...
This is the longest
gas stoves.
introduction to a toilet break.
Well, I just need to set it up.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris at Thanksgiving.
Yep.
She put out a picture of her with her husband
Mm.
next to a gas stove and a pie for Thanksgiving.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little Thanksgiving little kitchen thing. You know how it goes.
Yep.
Enter Fox News contributor Charlie Hurt. Time for you to go to the toilet, folks.
It's so funny that they saw that on her tweet. They saw her stove. They rightly heckled and mocked her and made fun of her and ridiculed her. And then all of the Democrats got freaked out and went on and jumped online and said, oh, no, wait a minute. They don't want to take away the gas stoves. That's misinformation. No, they do want to take away the gas stoves. And in fact, they are taking away the gas stoves.
Why do you think they want to do it?
In any of the places where they control things.
Is that why? Why do they want to ban gas stoves?
I think because they hate us. They hate humans. They hate joyfulness. They hate pies. They hate good food. They want us all to be miserable. They want us to suffer because when we're not if we're not suffering, we are we're making things, we're creating things, we're joyful, we're doing wonderful things. Everybody's happy, and that drives them crazy because they're all miserable. They want all of America to be as miserable and unhappy and unloved as they are, and we're just not going to go along with it.
Really stuck the landing there, Charlie.
Yes. So all of that came from the fact that Kamala Harris used a gas stove.
That's correct.
Posted a photo of herself using a gas stove.
And said Happy Thanksgiving. That's right. I've never seen a more appropriately named person than Charlie Hurt. It certainly hurt. So there we go. So that's his toilet break.
I'm not even going to ask what's wrong with his voice, but yeah.
I don't think he's got an excuse. Dave, while we're talking about people, this is a terrible segue. Sometimes you begin a segue and then you realize this isn't a good segue.
Yeah.
But talking about people that hurt.
Yes.
Sandra Day O'Connor.
Dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk to about Sandra Day O'Connor.
All right. Let's talk about Sandra Day O'Connor.
Yeah.
So she was the first female justice of the Supreme Court. So a very important figure appointed by Reagan in 1981. Her appointment was opposed by evangelical Christians, by the Christian right.
Why is that?
Because she had a record as a legislator in Arizona, which showed that she was against outlawing abortion.
Yeah.
And they said she would not be reliably pro-life.
They were right.
They were right. They were absolutely right.
So this must, sorry to interrupt. This must have been right at the early because the evangelicals only became pro-life in the late 70s, didn't they?
Yeah.
So this must have been right at the beginning
So this
of
is 1981.
Yeah.
So, and this was, when it was a major issue. Yes, twice she actually upheld Roe versus Wade. So, but to get into a bit more detail about her, she was not just unique as the first woman in the Supreme Court. She also, she had a pretty unique background for a Supreme Court justice. So she famously grew up on ranches in Arizona and Texas, where in one case she lived something like 9 kilometers from the nearest paved road. So she had this very unusual background. But another thing that makes her very unusual is what I mentioned, the fact that she actually served in the state legislature before she became a judge. She was actually the Speaker of the Arizona Senate. And I think at that time that she was the highest ranking woman in any legislature in the United States.
She was the first Senate majority leader in any state.
Yeah, first female Senate.
Yeah,
majority.
female.
Yeah. So she's not just a trailblazer as first woman on the Supreme Court. But it's actually very unusual, I think, for a Supreme Court justice to have been an elected politician beforehand. Now, I'll qualify that. Pew did a study of this that found 58 out of 116 Supreme Court justices have held elected office. But I think nearly all of them were people who were elected as prosecutors or judges. I don't personally know of any others who were actually elected politicians beforehand. I mean, there probably were, but I don't think there's been anyone since her who was an elected Democratic official. Now,
I think so, yeah.
some have argued that that really influenced her whole judicial style. Okay, so she was famously not restrained by ideology. She liked to take everything on a case-by-case basis. Her views changed over time. Some would say evolved over time. And yeah, I would say that she was very conservative in that respect, in the sort of Burkean way of everything has to happen incrementally. Her argument was that, legal change ultimately comes out of changing social consensus. And when you look at the way that her views changed, they tended to reflect that changing social consensus. A lot of conservatives had problems with that, though. So there were some who argued, Ramesh Ponnuru, that it was the fact that she was unideological was actually a problem for the rule of law, that it undermined stability, it undermined predictability of it. That if you basically change when the political winds change, then you don't really have rule of law. But at the same time, I think she actually did have very strong legal principles, and I think that this was a way of being a conservative justice for her. One of the really interesting cases that she was involved in. She was involved in a lot of interesting cases. So she was involved in Bush versus Gore.
Yeah, that's interesting.
For example, in fact, she's believed to have been the author or one of the authors of Bush versus Gore.
Wow.
And to give a bit of background to this, she and Rehnquist knew each other growing up in Arizona.
Didn't they almost go out?
They did. I think that Rehnquist proposed marriage.
Oh wow, that's going out.
Yeah. And she said, no. Unsurprisingly, both she and Rehnquist were very much about states' rights, which is very, very much reflected in Arizona politics. It's really all about get the government back east off our back. It's this real sort of Western states' rights libertarianism. So the Rehnquist court is often seen as this ultra-federalist kind of court, except when it came to Bush versus Gore, where it was, given the federalist proclivities of the court, it was described as a surprise that the Supreme Court decided to hear this case where George Bush was arguing that the state's election count procedure should be overridden. But surprise, surprise, they did have it. And if O'Connor is the one who wrote this decision, said that there wasn't really a clear enough procedure. There was not actually a clearly established procedure for this vote recount that Florida was doing, so fuck off, Bush wins. So that was obviously pretty controversial.
Yep.
It was controversial also that she didn't recuse herself from that, because this story came out that on election night, she and her husband were really disappointed when Florida was called for Gore, because her husband is reputed to have said, "Oh, damn, now we've got to wait another 4 years to retire back to Arizona so that you can retire when a Republican's in charge." Now, she disputes this.
Yeah.
To her credit, she didn't actually retire until in 2004 she retired.
I thought it was 2005.
Yeah, no, that's right. It was 2000. So it wasn't until Bush's. So she stuck around for that whole term. It wasn't until Bush's second term that she retired. But anyway, that was controversial. But the one case that she's ever said that she regrets is one of the last ones that she did in 2002.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't one of the last, but it was towards the end of her career. Which was, I think it was called White versus Minnesota. Now, that was a case about judicial elections. And Minnesota had a law saying that judges were not allowed in election campaigns to actually take positions on political issues. Now, Sandra Day O'Connor she was very against judicial elections. So not every state in the US elects judges. She was against electing judges, which is something that I agree with. I mean, I agree with her that I'm against it. She basically said, look, if you're going to have judicial elections, you've got to accept the consequences of that. You can't have people not taking things on, not taking positions on the things that they're getting elected on. Now, she said that she came to regret that because after that basically opened up the floodgates for judicial elections to become these huge money, super partisan elections that attract all kinds of outside money from outside of the states. So she did, and I find that a really interesting little episode, given that she was one of the few Supreme Court justices who actually came from an elected political background, but didn't believe that the judges should be elected. So she was often referred to as the sort of quintessential swing vote in the Supreme Court. It's been pointed out during the years when she was considered the swing vote, which I think was 1985 to 2004, she did vote with the Conservatives I think it was 82 to 28 times. So, I mean, that doesn't mean she wasn't the swing vote. Like, yes, she was still the swing, but it doesn't mean that she was equally swingy. She was a conservative all the time. She did sometimes side with liberals. She was famous for these judgments which were conservative, but at the same time kind of restricted the scope of the judgments somewhat. And as I say, she was famous for changing her mind. I certainly don't agree with everything she did. I would probably disagree with like 80% of what she did, but she does seem to have been genuinely intelligent, genuinely principled, generally gave a shit about the job. So this is a genuine loss.
Yeah. All I'd add to that is that the phrase which you didn't use, which I would use to describe her, is outcome-based.
Right. Yes.
Like, I think that she, like, these days is extremely unfashionable.
Yep.
For a judge to say that they're thinking about the outcome, even though they clearly are.
Yes.
But she was overtly outcome based, where she would talk in her judgment about what would happen.
Yes. Yeah.
If we went one direction or another direction, and that case you cited, the Minnesota versus White, it's a perfect example of that, where what they were saying, what she didn't write the majority for that. She just joined the majority, and she was a swing vote once again, 5-4. The majority of that was about First Amendment. Yeah, they weren't talking about whether judicial elections are good or not. No. They were talking about if a judge shouldn't have their First Amendment rights limited. Yeah, in an election campaign, and the legal theorists were talking about First Amendment, and to me, that's a cut and dry First Amendment argument, even though I also hate judicial elections.
Yes.
But she wasn't thinking that.
No.
She was happy to sign on with the First Amendment people, but she was just thinking, I hate judicial elections and this will get rid of them.
Yes.
But she turned out she guessed wrong.
Yes.
And the outcome was the opposite of what she expected,
Yeah.
which is why she was so full of regret.
Yeah.
That's the thing she most regretted. Not that she had jumped on board incorrectly some First Amendment thing and pretended otherwise, but she guessed the outcome wrong.
Yes.
So and I think that that says a lot about the way she approached her judicial choices. And it is because she was a politician, an ex-politician. She was thinking about outcomes.
Yes,
She was thinking about negotiations and mediations and so forth. And although to be fair, she wasn't a politician for as long as you might think. I think she joined the Arizona State Senate in 1970, and she became the Senate Majority Leader in 1973.
Yeah.
And she was a county judge by 1975. So it wasn't a lengthy career, but it did seem to be formative at the very least. But the difference between her and every other judge since has been all the other judges since have been acting like they're legal theorists.
Yes.
And some of them are. But some of them are just pretending.
Yes. Yeah.
Where she was overtly about trying to get an outcome that would be suitable for society. Not just the outcome she wants from her own ideology, but the outcome that society would prefer, a median outcome.
Yeah.
And I think legal watchers say that when she was a swinging judge, the court was closest to median public opinion. Because that was what she seemed to be most interested in.
Yes.
And people now, John Roberts, for instance, would probably look back on her and go, oh my God, that's not the way you're supposed to do it. But maybe the community preferred the outcomes then.
Yeah.
Yeah, It's certainly it's a dead philosophy net at the moment.
Yes, yeah.
But they might come back as a result of this era.
Yeah.
Like depending on how far they go.
Yes, yeah.
If a few crazies end up in the Supreme Court, this may yet live again.
yes.
Anyway, so it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I got a Stats Nugget. Woo! This isn't like a number of my Stats Nuggets are. This one isn't very nice, but
Okay.
yeah, it's a stat.
Okay.
70% of the women killed in Russia in 2020 and 2021 were victims of domestic violence. Now, I don't know the Australian numbers. In America in 2021, it's about 34%.
Yeah.
So about half. One of the reasons for that is because in 2017, Russia decriminalized domestic violence that does not cause, quote, substantial bodily harm and does not occur more than once a year. A violation is punishable if you do it less, if you do it once a year or less and do not cause substantial bodily harm. It's punishable by a fine of roughly $500 or a 15-day arrest. That vote was supported by the Russian parliament 380 to 3. Apparently, there's an old Russian proverb: if he beats you, it means he loves you. Apparently, that was said at the time. So that's not very nice, but if you want to know why Russia has so many problems with domestic violence, that might be why. That's something I had no idea about.
No.
And so even though it's not pleasant, I thought I'd share it because it's worth knowing. So there we go.
That's horrible. Yeah.
We're not going to end on that note.
No.
But, okay, let's go back to what I skipped before because there were so many updates. I'm going to go back to one of the updates I skipped, which was the Elon Musk update.
Okay.
It's a nicer place to be. Now, I told you about Musk trying to go to war with Bob Iger from Disney 2 days ago.
Yes.
He was acting as if Bob Iger was trying to end freedom of speech.
Yes.
Right, because Disney chose to not advertise on X.
Tell it to Earth, Bob.
Exactly. Reminder, why they weren't advertising, Bob Iger actually said, I have a lot of respect for Elon and what he's accomplished. And we know that Elon is larger than life in many respects, and his name is very much tied to the companies that either he has founded or he owns, whether it's Tesla, SpaceX, or now X. By him taking the position that he took, that was his stupid tweet before.
Yep.
In quite a public manner, we just felt that the association with that position and with Elon Musk and X was not necessarily a positive one for us, and we decided we would pull our advertising. So, to be clear, this was not about Media Matters or their investigation. This was not about other people's freedom of speech. This was about Elon Musk himself being a loon.
Yes.
And Disney felt that Elon Musk acting loony was too closely associated with the brand of X. And so therefore they didn't want to be associated with itself, which is a perfectly reasonable commercial call.
Absolutely, yes.
Has nothing to do with freedom of speech at all. Yet not only has Bob Iger and Disney been vilified constantly on Twitter for being a dictator and the enemy of freedom of speech, but there are boycotts being arranged against him, as Elon Musk predicted there would be. And now South Carolina, here's the update, has removed Disney from the state's approved investment fund list. The state's treasurer's office portfolio contains $105 million of Disney debt instruments, and they will mature over the next several months and will not be replaced after they're paid out. Now, cry not for Disney. That's not going to break the bank. They're a big company. I'm not saying it's going to make any difference at all. But why is this happening? According to South Carolina State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, quote, Disney has abandoned its fiduciary responsibilities to its investors and customers by joining far-left activists in boycotting legal tax-paying, employment-creating corporations to further Disney's political agenda.
No. Advertising on X would be an abuse of fiduciary responsibility.
Yeah, it would.
At this point.
It would. It's a bad brand decision.
It is.
He goes on, multi-billion-dollar corporations should not engage in boycotts designed to silence legitimate debate. Since America's founding, freedom of speech has been one of its core principles, and Disney should not engage in nefarious practices aimed at silencing those with less power and money. No, it's about Elon Musk. He has more power and money than the entire company of Disney. And they're not trying to silence him.
Jesus.
So just a reminder.
Wow. So Musk simps are at the highest level
Yes.
of state government.
And by the way,
Amazing.
I don't think Disney's going to care because that's
No.
chump change for them.
Yes, yeah.
But that is against the First Amendment. That's the government punishing
It is.
private speech.
Yeah.
That's what that is. That's against the First Amendment.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that allowing bonds to mature and not replacing them isn't exactly
But they're explicitly saying they're doing it
true.
because of Disney's. See, if they shut up, it'd be fine. But if they say we are doing this because of your political decisions, that's against the First Amendment. So, I mean, look, as I said, I'm not saying Disney go sue them. I'm just saying this is a depressing situation. Yes. Reminder, their evidence that Disney was boycotting free speech?
Yep.
Zero. All they have is Elon saying the words, "Hi, Bob."
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
That's what this is all based on. Hi, Bob. And because of that, they want to punish a company for choosing not to advertise when the owner becomes a liability.
Yeah.
After the owner, remember, admitted it
Yes.
in the same speech that it was his worst moment.
Yes, yeah.
He admitted it and
Yes.
refused to take responsibility.
Yep.
And remember, there were heaps of other companies as well.
Yes,
Disney
yeah.
wasn't the only one. Why Disney? Because Elon said, "Hi, Bob." Now, I used the word cult a few too many times last time. I'm trying to not do that.
Yeah.
But it is at least mindless tribalism.
Yes.
And it's so depressing and stupid and it achieves nothing.
I mean, Disney was the pre-existing bogeyman anyway because of Ron DeSantis's fight. with
That
them.
might have been why Elon said, "Hi, Bob."
Probably, yes.
But the reason for all this shit is because he said, "Hi,
Yes.
Bob." If he hadn't said, "Hi, Bob," they wouldn't have been saying, "Oh, DeSantis did this before."
Yeah.
It's because of Elon setting the hounds on them. All right? Yeah. Also, while I'm at it, remember that stupid poll I showed you where Elon Musk suggested that 30 minutes on TikTok makes kids 17% more anti-Semitic?
Yes.
Whatever the hell that means.
Yeah, yep.
Okay. That made it to the Republican debate.
Wow.
Here we go.
We really do need to ban TikTok once and for all. And let me tell you why. For every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok, every day, they become 17% more anti-Semitic, more pro-Hamas based on doing that.
If you watch 10 days of half an hour on TikTok, you become 170% more anti-Semitic.
Exactly. Imagine saying that phrase if you're Nikki Haley.
Yeah.
And you don't feel really stupid. Just imagine that. I can't imagine that. The thing that gets me.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, just on that banning TikTok thing, it's just a little aside.
Yeah.
What she doesn't seem to get. I'm no TikTok fan.
No.
But what she doesn't seem to get is the reason why there's a lot of anti-Israel viewpoints on TikTok is because there's a lot of young people.
Yeah.
And the young people are more anti-Israel. You get rid of TikTok, those anti-Israel kids are going to go onto some other social media
Yes, yeah.
app, and they'll take their views with them.
Yeah.
That's all it is. You can't change it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing that gets me though is like Trump again.
Yes.
There's all this fealty towards a man baby, being a man baby,
Yes, yeah.
because he
Yes.
has been a man baby.
Yeah.
Like they love it. What Musk essentially said there when he did his famous press conference was he was saying to the advertisers, when he's saying the advertisers are going to send Twitter bankrupt and they could tell their excuses to the earth, what he's essentially the same as a toddler holding their breath and then saying, and when I die, you're going to be really sorry. Yeah, like there's that mindset. In fact, it actually occurred to me that he shares the same mindset I had when I was 9 years old. I'll tell you a very quick story. I didn't used to like swimming. I still
Right.
don't.
Yep.
My grandfather used to say in his very Italian way, "You'll fight her with the water." Anyway, that's my patented grandfather impression. My nunno. But anyway, I used to hate showering. I used to hate going to pools, hate going to the beach. I just didn't like getting wet. I was a cat, essentially. And except for way less cute. And so we had compulsory swimming in our school when in like year 3. You had to learn how to swim, right?
Yep.
So every single week you go for half an hour to the pool.
Yes.
And I did not want to be doing that. And so I thought to myself, what I'm going to do
Yep.
is I'm going to jump into the pool.
Yep.
And I'm going. The teacher, I should say, used to stroll along the side of the pool giving instructions, right? And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the pool. I'm going to grab the bottom of the ladder on the bottom of the pool, and I'm going to hold my breath. And that teacher is going to have to rescue me. That teacher is going to have to jump in their clothes. And they are going to have to rescue me because then they can't let me die. and so I did it, and it worked. They jumped in to rescue me, and I never had to go in the pool ever again. And now I'm a terrible swimmer. But so I'm not sure I won. But having said that, in defense of me, the teacher, it was their job to care about me, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, I was right. The teacher did have to jump in. And and number three, most importantly, I was 8 years old.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas
So that is three advantages that you have over Elon Musk.
That's right. so I for him to be behaving the same way as I do, and for everyone to endorse it, and to hosanna it, and to follow his boycotts because of it, is just so profoundly depressing.
Wow.
And I say that as someone who supports Twitter being a free speech app. I didn't say that last week. I do. I love the idea. I mean, of course, I'm Mr. Libertarian. Of course, I want a free speech social media. Like, that's fine. I've got no problems with that. But if you do that, you need to acknowledge that that's not going to be good for advertisers. You need to acknowledge you need another income source.
Yes.
Or you need to do something to because advertising is a service. He has to provide them with a service. That's why they pay him. And it's his responsibility not to make the sponsorship a liability, right?
Yes.
So if he needs to change it in some way, like what they're doing with the algorithm to try and make it low risk.
Yep.
Great. That's a good start.
Yes, yeah.
But that's not where you finish. Like you for a start, you need to apologize when it goes wrong, as opposed to just saying go fuck yourself.
Yes, yeah.
Multiple
times.
That's right. You shouldn't tweet like a nutcase yourself.
Yes.
Because that encourages other people to do that.
Yes, yep.
You also shouldn't monetize creeps. That's nothing to do with free speech.
No.
You can let them speak without paying them.
Yes.
When you monetize creeps, you're encouraging more creeps.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that you could not do. And so basically what I'm saying is I got no problems with this free speech thing.
Yes.
I just think his business model sucks.
Yes.
And that's his fault. It's not his advertiser's fault. And I'm happy to tell the earth.
Yes.
The earth, his business model sucks. Dave, any thoughts?
I just want to come back to your anti-swimming campaign.
Sure.
Because in this graduation ceremony this morning, the speaker who breeds or is involved in seahorse breeding in Sydney Harbour said...
That's a thing?
Yeah, because there are very valuable seahorse colonies in Sydney Harbour.
Right.
And he said seahorses are terrible swimmers, which, why did the good Lord put them in the water? I don't know. Maybe that's an argument against religion. But, so he said what they do is they grip onto seaweed with their tails. Their tails are their strongest evolutionary asset. They grip onto seaweed with their tails and just kind of float there while the current brings the food to them.
Okay.
Now, if you had been able to breathe underwater, you would have been the bad swimmer but who can hold on until the food, or in this case, the fully clothed teacher comes to you. Yeah.
Chaz,
you're
I'm a beautiful seahorse.
You're a beautiful seahorse.
Thank you, Dave.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay. Well, look, that's probably a good note to end on, the beautiful why I'm a beautiful seahorse.
Yes.
I mean, I did have a slightly depressing
let's not
bit about climate change.
Let's not kill the buzz now.
Let's not kill the buzz. I can guarantee you next week I'm going to have a nice depressing little bit about climate change for you. That's a good teaser for you. But other than that, this is probably our second last PEP for the year, I think, because Play America ends next week.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to keep on going or not.
No.
I don't want to. I don't want to keep on reading. I'm probably going to go on a holiday for 3 days with my family, and then
3 days.
Yeah, I know. I'll be reading. Don't worry. And I'm gonna try and organise with Melina to come back and do the Hunter Biden special as a Christmas present for everyone.
Yeah.
I did promise before the end of the year.
Yes. Yep.
And then I think we sort of established before that second week of January would come back.
It might be a little bit later.
Might be a little bit later.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
But
well,
not much later. Like,
No, okay.
might be third week. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, January sometime we'll be coming back.
Okay.
So that's just a notice for you guys what's coming up. But until then, get ready for the final PEP of the year in a week's time. I'll start prepping now, Dave.
Okay.
Thank you very much as always.
My pleasure.
And bye-bye from the beautiful little Seahorse. So I stay peppy.
See ya.
Hello, this is me 2 hours from now, and I've just been texting with Dave. Looks like PEP 137 is not going to be next Friday. I think it's going to be next Wednesday, actually. So it's only 5 days' time. So you've just had 2 PEPs in 48 hours, and then another PEP in 5 days' time. So I guess when it rains, it pours. At least it does in PEP world. Oh, and I'm also still a beautiful little seahorse. Stay peppy.